Yo, what's good? I'm not going to waste any time with the intro. We're going to be reacting to a Genshin video in the big 2025. Is it still worth it? Now, you probably heard that and thought, no. And that's perfectly fine, you can think that, sure. However, I'm a huge fan of BranOnline, the only motherfucker who should be getting praise around here. And I'm curious to hear his thoughts, because he is, for lack of better terms, the Genshin guy. You think of Genshin Impact, you think of maybe one of two people, BranOnline or Doro. And I think they're both fantastic creators. But I just stumbled across this, tried to unwind on YouTube, and I thought, hey, you know what? Why not? Let's hear his thoughts, because I love Genshin Impact. I've never hidden that fact. I just don't love what goes into it. So, let's see what Bran has to say.
Are you somebody who played Genshin Impact back at the start of lockdown, or have
Yes.
you never even given it a shot? Maybe you're a veteran player that's just taking a break, and you're wondering, is it worth playing now? Well, luckily for you, I've been playing for the past 5 years, and I've got enough
I would
knowledge to be able
say
to give you a bit
yes.
of a rundown on the game, so
If it
you
wasn't
can
for
answer the
Nodcry.
question of,
Not
is it
Nodcry,
worth
Natlan.
playing? Genshin Impact has evolved a lot over the past 5 years. What started off as a game with a couple of regions with limited playtime to explore has suddenly evolved into this absolute titan of a game.
Already right there. He says it's evolved, and yet artifact loadouts don't exist. Well, let me put it a different way. They have artifact loadouts. Loadouts. But no, hopefully goes in a bit more in this, because I think the combat's fine the way it is. The combat in Genshin is what it needs to be. Casual for the casual play base. And at higher levels, sure, you can get fancy with it. Maybe pop off 2 ults instead of 1. Ooh.
Nowadays, there's regions that extend all the way from Mondstadt to Liyue, Inazuma, Sumeru, Natlan, Fontaine, and Nodcross.
I will say, Fontaine, I'm very bad boy in Fontaine. Fontaine looks beautiful, but I've seen Natlan, and it does not make me excited. The only reason I haven't, well, there's 2 reasons. One, I don't want to say she who shall not be named. And 2, Natlan just doesn't interest me. It's a nation at war, and it just looks like the farthest thing from it. But maybe. Let's carry on.
With a ton of sub-regions in the mix as well. Genshin's a live service gacha RPG, which means every 6 weeks there's a brand new update. Now, back in the day, those updates would probably last maybe 2 to 3 hours, but nowadays, you've got maybe 6 to 10 hours just of story content each.
So this tells me right now that I think what Bran's going to say is, first and foremost, Genshin Impact is a story-driven game. And I think it's great, the fact the story quests are now 6 to 8 hours long. Because I've thought that for a long time. Genshin Impact is a story-driven game. The problem was, the story is either 1, too short, or 2, presented really poorly. Except like maybe 1 flashy cutscene every 2 hours. But if the story was only 2 to 3 hours long, you'd get like 1 flashy cutscene, maybe 2 if you're lucky. Also, I'm just going to say the name, Paimon.
Patch. And the story writing and pacing's actually improved a lot, especially in Nodcry. I mean, Paimon still exists.
What did I just say? God damn. The new VA is huge. The new VA is huge. I'm hopeful Paimon's voice isn't. I'd probably go play it more if the old VA's voice lines are just replaced. It's interesting though. He said, what was it?
You've got maybe 6 to 10 hours just of story content each patch. And the story writing and pacing's actually improved a lot, especially in Nodcry.
The fact he's specifically said Nodcry and not Natlan worries me immensely about playing Natlan. If I'm going to play Natlan. Maybe when we hit 1,000 subs, we go back and play Genshin Impact. Who knows? Maybe that's the next marathon.
I mean, Paimon still exists.
That picture is so stupid, man.
You know, she's still going to repeat the same thing every 5 minutes. She's there as a major plot point and, you know, to ruin the emotional tension. Story.
Is she a plot point, though? Or is she just a part of the story? I would assume maybe. I would assume I saw something where she's the moon, I want to say. I don't care for spoilers. You can feel free to spoil it for me. Sure, but I'm pretty sure somewhere I heard she was the moon, or like there was 3 moons and 2 moons disappeared. That means 2 Paimons died, and now we got 1 Paimon left. This is why I need to catch up with Genshin. It's just I don't feel like catching up to him.
Quests are now integrated into the main quests for Nordcry, which honestly works super well. If you played Genshin back in the day, you probably realized a lot of the story quests for certain characters felt more like NPC quests. Nowadays, that's just really not the case. I've recently found my...
Remember, what was it in Inazuma? Was it Tepe? Like a big thing when we were with Kokumi in Sangonomiya. I was like, oh my god, Tepe's here, he's got a delusion, he's growing old, and he fades out. I'm thinking, okay, but who the fuck is Tepe? Why do I care about him? Show me Kokumi. Show me, like, actual pivotal stakes, not just a random NPC what Paimon gets to speak to, because the Traveler just never speaks. Or he didn't back then, unless very briefly.
Myself saying I really didn't like this character at all until I played the quest. Almost every banner, kinda like Hoyoverse know how to sell a character. Along with all the major regions, there's also a ton of sub-regions now, and I swear Genshin's one more underground continent away from being Hollow Knight. Now, if you started playing Genshin way back in the day, you probably got level locked a few times during the beginning of the game. Typically, that's just not really a problem anymore due to the severe amount of content you actually have. Although the level locks are still technically a thing, you have so much more opportunity to be able to level up early on now by doing the main quest or story quest or even just general exploration. You're really not going to find it a problem.
The problem with general exploration is the general exploration in Genshin Impact, for lack of better terms, sucks balls. With a glider, like, sure. To sprint, you have to spend stamina. They should update the stamina system. First and foremost, the stamina system, sure, the initial burst of sprint costs stamina. The rest of it just doesn't cost it. And secondly, let us run up walls like Wuthering Waves. Nobody likes that comparison. I'm sure you've already disliked the video and thought, oh my god, how dare he say Wuthering Waves in my Genshin Impact video. Genuinely, just those simple improvements would make exploration feel that much better. And you can't deny that fact.
A major concern a lot of veteran players had that played back in the day was that a lot of lore was very confusing in Genshin Impact, and although that is still the case, the latest region of Nordcry is actually tying together a ton of loose ends. Although I guess we still don't really know where Mondstadt's horses are. But seriously, there's tons of characters that are now in Nordcry that have been mentioned since the beginning of the game. We finally got to see Varka. Alice is here.
There we go.
A ton of Hexen Circle mages and people from the Knights of Favonius, the Tui Harbingers, and even Moon Sisters. Let's talk about co-op in Genshin Impact.
Moon Sisters, that was it. I believe Paimon is a Moon Sister. And I've just heard him say, let's talk about co-op. Respectfully, of course. What co-op? You get to run around with a limited stamina ring and just kill Hilichurls again? Sure. Maybe clear out a domain in like 5 seconds? Okay.
Because honestly, co-op is still super limiting in my opinion. Although it's fun to go around in the open world and explore with your friends and stuff, you still can't really do any quests together or interact with...
I will say, being able to play with friends is probably the highlight of any co-op. It really is.
Most things in the game, like NPCs, be able to turn in daily commissions. Although it's not the be-all and end-all, it's still a couple of minor gripes that I've got with the co-op system in Genshin, and it can be just more of an annoyance than anything else. If you're interested in co-op, you can feel free to join the Discord, play with the community, but be careful on the internet. There are a lot of weird people out there. Just look after yourself.
I am so glad. I'm so glad Bran said that. I really am. The fact he's warning people is so good, because, let's be honest, children play these games. Now, you can try and supervise as much as possible, sure, but children will play these games at the end of the day. And if you look at the fan base, you can tell they're children. Even if they're, 30 years old, but whatever. It's nice he said that. You should be careful even say. You never know who you're interacting with. You never know how dangerous somebody is. And just how bad things can get. I'm so glad he said that. That is a big respect to Bran for doing that. This is why I'm a huge fan of Bran.
Now, the progression system in Genshin Impact has taken a turn. It's had a lot of updates. For example, your character level is not locked to 90 anymore. You can actually...
Oh, this. The big old predatory system thing. It's like, oh yeah, once you've C6 somebody, get like, 2 more constellations? Maybe. If you, got a lot of money to waste.
go up to level 100. Now, this is locked behind Constellation 7s of 5-star characters, which is kind of crazy, and you are not going to have to worry about that as a new player for a very long time.
No, you absolutely don't. In fact, you shouldn't feel pressure to get any constellations. Z0 is more than enough. Honestly, God, Z0 is more than enough. This game is casual, as casual can get. We're talking like doing at Abyss levels of casual. Like, it's just, don't feel any pressure whatsoever. Of course, once again, it harkens back to what Bran just said about be careful who you interact with online, because people will try and go, oh no, you actually need this character at C2. It's the only way they're very viable. No. People will just be viable whenever. Alright, I'm going to try and not pause as much, because I feel like I'm getting sidetracked a lot, but let's really let Bran cook.
But you can get to a higher adventure rank much, much faster now, so you're actually able to farm for end games, such as like artifacts, so you can build teams easier, level up your characters more and talents. And nowadays, when a new banner character comes out, the quest actually gives you their character ascension materials to level them up a decent amount. So it is much easier to build new characters now. Your daily resin is still capped 50? To 200, so you can't do too many things per day after the main content's completed in a patch.
Yeah, the stamina gate system feels really bad, but I get it's kind of the model they want to go with. It's just, hey, don't play too much, but also play quite a lot. It's a fine line that I think just needs to go.
So if you're looking for a game to grind for hours every day, then this is not the game for you. But if you're looking for a game where you can just
grind for hours, do an Abyss, and
get everything you need done, then it's perfect. You're still going to have a ton of content to do at the start of the patch, but as soon as that's done, it kind of dies off until at least midway through when you get the second half. Since Genshin's inception, there's been a lot of brand new areas in the game. I mentioned all the regions and a couple of sub-regions before, and the exploration has kind of evolved over time. There's a lot of characters that can aid you in exploration, but most of the time, there's region-specific mechanics that can also do the same thing, like Saurians in Natland. Although they might not feel as smooth as the characters, they still exist, so you don't necessarily have to have the characters to do any of the exploration required. And the character designs in Genshin have gotten vastly better.
A quick point about, I know I said we're not going to keep pausing, but we're pausing again. A quick point about that. He showed Movrika. I really hope in Nod Cry they just get away with the whole, what was it called? Night Soul? Night Flame, I want to say? Where once you've had Nightline characters, you can travel that region easier than others outside of compared to, say, a Sumeru using Movrika. That was really fucking scummy, and that's one of the reasons I really, really fell off Genshin Impact, and why I've not played it in God knows how long.
Over time. All we have to do here is compare Diluc's model with any of the Nodcry characters to...
I don't like how he said, let's compare Diluc, and then just showed, what's he called, Flins, who looks like Diluc but blue. At least pop up the other skin. Oh, I can't remember what it was called. Oh, what it looks like. It's the red one. You know the one. At least show up that one and like, damn, that's really cool. And I'll be honest, I think all Genshin designs are pretty bland. I really do. That being said, it suits the aesthetic that the game has. It really does. I wouldn't put like I know we hate this comparison, but say Carlotta from Women Waves, I wouldn't put her design in Genshin Impact. I don't think it would work. I really don't. But for what it is, the designs fit the models, fit the game's aesthetics, and I think it looks... I was going to say it looks good, but not in like a... It looks very bland, of course, but also it looks nice and smooth and like it fits.
See that is the case.
Except Movrika with Natlan, just so
crying out loud. Makes all the other motherfuckers look like Voldemort. I'm hoping this is going to be a thing going forward and all of the new characters are going to look significantly better, but time will tell. I'm hoping this is going to be a thing.
Who the fuck? See, that looks nice. Compared to her, like, goddamn.
Going forward, and all of the new characters are going to look significantly better, but time will tell. The music in Genshin Impact is and always has been one of the best things about the entire game.
100%.
And it just keeps getting better and better. From cultural significance to just how catchy the songs can be, Hoyo Mix literally never misses. If you hear a song in Genshin, you can pretty much tell what region it's from and what it's trying to represent just based off of
that
the
one area in Sumeru.
And every single track really fits the vibe of whatever nation it belongs to. Nod Cry music is genuinely some of my favorite because of the Celtic vibes. Makes me feel like I'm sat in a tavern in The Witcher 3.
Low-key, he kind of suits that. Maybe a bit of a bigger mustache next time, Bran. Maybe a bit of a bigger one, but...
Now let's get serious for a second. Let's talk about combat. Combat's had a lot of updates since the inception of Genshin, but it does still feel pretty much the same. Elemental reactions are still a thing. You can mix two elements to deal a different type of damage, for example, cryo and pyro to trigger melt reactions. And elemental reactions are cool.
The animations aren't really that good, though, let's be honest.
To everybody's expectations. Now, what is the endgame like in Genshin Impact? Well,
we'll say, first of all, the animation's pretty mid. But it fits the aesthetics of the game. Pretty bare bones. But it's passable and it works. And it looks smooth inside the game. One big problem is, and this is ignoring all the power creep talk, and also with this. One big problem I have with the combat is they just release, when Dendro released, everyone was like, oh, I can't wait to explore Dendro. And everyone realized Hyper Bloom is the way to go. So it's just a Hyper Bloom meta for fuck knows how long. And that's going to be, I worry, the same again in future regions. In fact, I've already got one out now with, I think it's Moon Bloom, whatever it's called, something like that.
Well, the short answer is the Spiral Abyss still exists. And the long answer is the Spiral Abyss still exists and it isn't the most annoying thing in the endgame. So nowadays we have the Spiral Abyss, which is the same as it's always been. You got to go through each floor of the Spiral Abyss with 2 different teams on each side and clear it in enough time to get 36 stars for maximum rewards. But now we also have Imaginarium Theater, which means you have to actually invest in your characters and get them up to a certain level before you can even use them. And per rotation of Imaginarium Theater, it is locked to specific character elements. If you don't have enough characters, you're kind of screwed. It's endgame for a reason, and the game does expect you to invest in a lot of characters. I personally think, although it's not perfect by any means, Imaginarium Theater is probably the most fun type of endgame in Genshin. But we also now have Stygian Onslaught, which is by far the most difficult, and it does offer temporary weapon skins. Stygian Onslaught.
Nah, just don't carry on there, bro. Just temporary weapon skins. Nah, just move on.
So it's an interesting one because it is incredibly difficult, but it's incredibly difficult for all the same reasons that endgame has been difficult in the past. I sound like a broken record saying this, but it is quite literally just hyperinflated overworld bosses with a timer. Nothing hurts your ego more than taking characters you've saved years for or even spent thousands of dollars on into dire difficulty just to fail the damage check. Skill issue? Probably. But mechanically difficult content would be great instead of HP inflated bosses against a timer. But again, it's been 5 years asking for the same thing, and at this point, I don't.
What they should do is, rather than timing down, they should time up. I think that's how they should do it. Because at this point, it's like, damn, we really need to beat this before 5 minutes are up. What if instead it's like, okay, I need to beat this before the 3-minute mark, or else I get worse. It's a small change. Hopefully you get what I mean. But it's just, it makes it so much fun. Because rather than trying to beat the game's trying to beat you. I think that's way more fun. Because at this point, it's like, okay, can the game outlast me? As opposed to, can I outlast the game with some stupid mechanics? Because there's one boss in Spiral Abyss where, I don't know what the boss was called, but it had a shield. And all it would do is, it would make you wait there for 30 seconds. It would just stop you from doing any damage for 30 seconds. Obviously, people found a way around that, but the fact that you have to do a very specific setup to do that.
That we're going to get it. Quality of life in Genshin really does leave a lot to be desired. Just as a couple of examples here, domains are still locked to specific days, other than now for the first week of a new patch, when you can freely farm for characters. But for the rest of the 5 weeks, you're stuck waiting for them to open, like at GameStop in 2010 on a brand new game release. Lots of quality of life is actually added to Genshin, but it always feels like there's a catch. Now, is Genshin free-to-play friendly? That's a question everybody asks. To answer that question, I kind of need to explain to people what a gacha system is and how it works in the game. Just a quick reminder, if you want to save yourself some money on Genshin Impact, Genesis Crystals, or other gacha, money to get a 5-star out. So for characters in the game, you have a banner. The maximum amount of pulls you will do to get a 5-star character on the banners is 90. There is a soft pity of 74, so when you get to that point, the amount of pulls you do between 74 and 90, your chances of getting a 5-star will increase up to 100%. But whenever you get the 5-star, you've actually got a coin flip 50-50 chance of getting the character or getting a standard banner character. If you fail the 50-50, you start again, and then you're guaranteed. So the maximum amount of pulls you're going to have to do to get a guaranteed 5-star character is 180 pulls. You get quite a lot of primo gems, which equate to pulls in the game per patch, from things like exploration, limited time events, and even main quests. The end game does offer quite a lot as well, but then there isn't just characters in this game, there's also weapons. The weapon banner only goes to 80 maximum pity, with a soft pity of 65, but instead of a 50-50, it's a fate point system, which has been improved over time, but again, there is still a catch.
And you can thank Tectone for that. Go ahead, I'll wait. Now, once again, you probably just go, oh my god, Tectone mentioned dislike, dislike, dislike. Hear me out. You don't have to like anybody in this world. You don't have to care about them. You don't have to like them. But you have to admit, without that whole Staff of Homer incident, it would still be an atrocious mess. And the fact they've actually improved this as well. I remember when this was 2 fate points. You'd have to lose 2 50-50s to then go another round. You'd have to do 3 whole rotations going to pity to get the weapon guaranteed with 2 fate points. And now it's changed here. Imagine.
Before, you'd have to pull twice just to be guaranteed a specific weapon.
Exactly.
Now you only have to pull once, but because it's a fate point and not a 50-50, let's just say, for example, you pull on a weapon banner and you lose the quote-unquote 50-50 to a wrong weapon. Then you gain 1 fate point. When this number says 1 out of 1, it means the weapon is then guaranteed. However, you can't save these fate points for a different banner. Unlike the character pity, which is if you lose the 50-50, you can wait until the next character and then be guaranteed. You can't do that with weapons. So if you want a specific weapon,
you could also just not lose the 50-50 for the weapon. Or 75-25, I don't know what it is in Genshin. You could also just win that shit, you know? It's like, oh no, my fate point doesn't carry over. Good thing I won.
you better make sure you've actually got enough pulls to get it. I really wouldn't recommend pulling on the weapon banners. There's a lot of free-to-play options that are just as good. Or
yeah, I wouldn't recommend that either.
4-star weapons that you do need to pull on the banners for. But unless you're going to take things like Stiggy and Onslaught super seriously, most of the time, 5-star weapons are really not a requirement in this game. And either way, if you lose 50-50, you get to build
feel
character.
like a requirement.
Not in the game, but the emotional damage that you suffer will allow you to build character in real life. Every year for Genshin's anniversary, they've actually confirmed that you're going to get a free 5-star character, and there's a lot of other freebies that you're going to be able to earn just by playing the game, like free character constellations. Let's talk about the limited time events in Genshin. We've gone over a lot of the permanent stuff like stories, but limited time events, in my opinion, have really fallen off over time. There's a lot of repeat minigames and recycled content with a couple of changes here and there that don't really hold much weight to them. There's still some staple story events that come out that are really good, but the fact that they're still limited time means that there is a sense of FOMO there, or fear of missing out. There is some really cool permanent content now that have been kind of derived from events though, like the music rhythm game and the Milliastra Wonderland sandbox. Milliastra Wonderland is pretty much the Roblox of Genshin Impact. Players have access to a ton of tools from the game and assets to be able to create their own game modes. I think this is one of the coolest
a whole other topic
Genshin,
that I'm not
although it's not really fully developed yet. I can only see it getting better over time. And I mean, you can go into Milliastra expecting Disneyland or League of Legends, and well, you can be turned into Hassan's dog. The possibilities are endless. The disadvantages of starting Genshin now can also be seen as advantages, so let me just go through them and you can decide. Starting now means that you've already missed out on a ton of limited time events, which also means there's a lot of cool story that you've missed. You can still catch up with that from YouTube and other people's playthroughs, but it's not the same as playing it yourself.
Yeah, it's not nearly as fun.
There are a lot of characters in this game. You might have to wait a very long time for characters to get reruns so you can even have a thought about pulling them. Unless a Chronicled Wish comes around where like...
That's what Star Rail do really nicely with the triple rerun. I think that's what should happen in Genshin. And just other games as well, say like ZZZ. Which, speaking about the events as well, ZZZ's events are probably the best in the market, hands down. They're so fun, they're quick, they're easy. That's all you can ask for, really.
Once a year, if your character's from the region that the Chronicled Wish shows up from, they've got a good chance at showing up in there, maybe.
Also, shout out to Al
That's
Haytham.
still a risk, and you don't know if
Love
that's going
that
to
guy.
happen. Now,
Need to
as
get
I
more
mentioned before, there is
constellations.
a lot of content in this game, from story to exploration to minigames to whatever you want. And this could either make you feel like you're really behind, or that you have a whole ecosystem of things to explore. It can be a good or a bad thing depending on your mindset. If you actually enjoy the story or Genshin Impact itself, you're really just not going to
Hold up. That's not the dual
depending on
blade.
your mindset. If you actually enjoy the
Has
story or Genshin
Has bro upgraded since the last time? What the fuck?
Impact itself, you're really just not going to have time to get bored. At least not for a long time. And it's free. The only thing it costs is your time. Nod Cry feels like a
And right there. So it's not free then. Time is probably the most precious resource we have as humans. And dedicating like 50 hours to Genshin Impact, I honestly, wholeheartedly cannot recommend that. Especially if you're the kind to really fixate on something and go, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to grind for God knows how long doing this. And at that point you realize, I've slept for 3 days. But at least I'm in Inazuma now. That's cool.
great time for old players to return. Again, wrapping up loose ends from the start of the game, and we're almost...
See, that's where I'd recommend it. Like, returning like vets and whatnot could probably come back, like me, and go, okay, let's see what the hype's about. But new players coming in, they're going to have a real big culture shock if they've come from, say, a Chaos Zero Nightmare, or a Wuthering Waves, or a Zenless Zone Zero, or like a Limbus Company, or Do an Ibis, any game really. You have a really big shock when you realize this game feels really dated.
in the end game now, so I think if you're gonna get into Genshin, now's probably the best time to do it. So is it worth it? I think it is.
I'm gonna leave this thought until the end.
Gonna get into Genshin, now's probably the best time to do it. So is it worth it? I think it is worth it to at least try it out. Again, it's a free game
Yeah,
with a
it is
ton of
worth it to
content,
try it out, at
especially
least.
for brand new players. But there are alternatives. If Genshin doesn't seem to fit the bill that you're looking for, there's other gacha games like Wuthering Waves that do a lot of very similar things to Genshin, but introduce a lot of other aspects that you might find more intriguing.
Artifact
And there's other
loadouts.
anime-esque games that don't really have character gacha in it, like Duet Night Abyss that I'm loving right now. And even games like Where Winds Meet. This
Peak
is just
game.
a great time for video games. But if you've never tried Genshin, you honestly might as well give it a try.
So, thinking about that, the thought I had in my head was, let me go back real quick.
Odd Cry feels like a great endgame now, so I think if you're gonna get into Genshin, now's probably the best time to do it. So
That right there when he said, now's probably the best time to do it. I still don't agree. I really don't, especially if you're a new person. For one simple reason, and this is probably going to get really heated, and we're close to the video, don't worry. Oh, we're close to the end. The problem is, there's no skip and summary button. And I think that's what a big misconception people have. Like, oh, you want to skip the story? No, I want to skip the extra dialogue added in, the flavor text that I don't need. Like, if Genshin's whole story was, okay, we're going to cut out like 60% of the dialogue. Congrats, you've cut out 60% of the useless dialogue. You still got like 10% left. I know that's just Paimon. In fact, just remove Paimon. But no, saying, oh, I want to skip a summary button doesn't mean I want to skip the story. It means I hope the story is good to a level I like, where it doesn't make me not, or it makes me not want to skip. Because let's be honest, games have a tendency to just hyperinflate dialogue to make you play longer. And like I said before, time is the most precious resource you've got. Do you really want to spend your time listening to Paimon? No. Are you crazy if you do? New voice actor or not? Anyway, great fucking vid from BranOnline. Honestly, great fucking video. Good ass video. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to, support Bran. And I guess we'll see you in the next one.